The new Lyrical Monasterio support has been all over the place. On one hand, we got a wave of Clarissa support with no units called Urns correct. This is bad because Clarissa decks only get 3 cards to flex because of how strict the 5-name requirement is. On the other hand, decks like Willista got infinitely better, and that's what we're talking about today. Willista is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Level Wombo combo deck that puts a ridiculous amount of attack on a unit, and then will probably deck out. The goal of my build is to loop Tranquil Affection Elvira for crazy draw power. Let's get into my deck list now. Let's first go over the orders. True-Hearted Ruby and Everlasting Sapphire. When these are played, they go in the soul, and Willista can Soul Blast them for an extra effect. So True-Hearted Ruby is a draw 2 discard 1, and its Willista effect is to give the Vanguard 15k. Everlasting Sapphire gives the unit 5k, and its Willista skill is to mill 5 units, then call up the 2 of them to open rearguard circles. These 2 cards combo with our enablers. Our 2 enablers are Attentive Deep Ottilie and Tranquil Affection Elvira. Elvira is a plain and simple draw 1 every time you activate Everlasting Sapphire. This card is the main goal of the deck. What this deck got from the new wave of support is a restander and a way to search orders. This means Elvira is now consistently going to be drawing us 1 to 2 cards per turn per copy seen of each order. Ottilie gives an additional effect to True-Hearted Ruby. When True-Hearted Ruby is played, she gains 1k and enables another order to be played. Before we start trying for our combos, we want both of these 2 cards onto the field. Our 2 consistency boosters are Challenge to Self Trudy and Relaxed Conversation Philomena. Trudy, when she's discarded from hand on your turn, Counterblast 1 to search a gem card from the deck. Philomena lets us play an extra aura on the turn she's placed to rearguard circles. We're running this because there's only so many copies of Ottilie, and she's also a great extender after playing Sapphire. Lastly, the most important card in the deck is Scintillant Ray's Ophelia. If during our turn we manage to play both orders, she gains 15k power and can restand. This card is nuts and is the best target for the 5k buff from the Sapphire. Unfortunately, Ophelia can only restand once per turn, even if you have another one on the other rear column, due to her requirement of having to put one from center rear column back in the soul during battle. Surprisingly, Ophelia is the only thing holding up Willista from bottom tier. And no matter where everything else either gains 6 crit or has 6 attacks, Ophelia is a band-aid to a bullet hole, but it's still pretty effective. For our trigger lineup, running 8 crit because we need the pressure, and running draw triggers because we do need the defensive power, even if it does risk deck out. Now on to mulligans. For mulligans, we're looking for our 2 enablers, Ottilie and Elvira. Also, of course, we want an Ophelia. We don't necessarily need to see Ophelia in the opening hand, because we can try to pull it out of the deck with Willista skill, but it is just better to see Ophelia from the start, so we don't put ourselves closer to deck out. Next, of course, we want to see our order cards. The more of these we have in hand, the better. Following this, we also want to see 1 Trudy to make sure we can find either Everlasting Sapphire or whatever gem we need at the time. Also, Persona Rides are good to keep as well. Philomena lets us extend our plays, and as such we don't need her in hand unless we already have 2 gems. Usually you can put it back, but do look for those golden hands. Keep crits for those matchups where guarding early is needed, and keep PGs for matchups where PGs are required. Put back everything else. Now on the deck rating. This deck has 4 attacks with fairly large numbers and intercept restrict, but unfortunately that just means we've caught up to set 1 Bastion. 3 out of 5 on power. The deck is live fully on turn 3, so that's a 3 out of 5 on speed. There's no control elements, 0 out of 5 on control. This deck is a consistency mess. Unlike in other decks where 1 or 2 cards do everything the deck needs, this deck needs all of its combo pieces to do anything, and it wants them in multiples. Luckily, this deck does have the tools to see its pieces, but a little bad luck can just end the whole thing. 2 out of 5 on consistency. This deck doesn't have any flexibility. Its main cards are only good at one thing, and the entire deck just can't do grind games. 1 out of 5 on versatility. Even with all that, Willista is still very good at drawing cards. It's no Nirvana, but with a bit of luck, you can easily draw 6 cards on a turn. Just don't get too unlucky. 4 out of 5 on value. Now where does that put the deck on the tier list? D tier. Oh, that's not great. But it is definitely a lot better than where it was. I wouldn't hold out hope for this deck being meta, but it is still incredibly fun to play as a wombo combo deck. I still don't have my fix for a Pale Moon style deck in Overdress, but I guess Willista will do. Thanks for watching. By the way, I'm keeping this tier list you saw at the end of the video on my website, which is linked in the pinned comment and description. It's got a list of the tiers, and any highlighted deck can be clicked on and it'll take you right to the video of my deck list. More Vanguard content's coming up on the channel, and after that we'll be back to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tier list series. See you then.